I thought it was maybe about time I check in and do a part two to this privave lesson. And again, my original intent was just to show how to, get into a tune if you have it on a lead sheet or if you have, you know, music to listen to that you can take it off of a recording by ear or whatever. And I was reading it off of a lead sheet and playing through the chords in a rudimentary way. Just wanted to kind of share. After I spent about a week, again giving you the evolution of how to go through a tune and dissect it and kind of make it part of your playing. Which, by the way, I got this concept years and years ago. I would try to learn as many tunes as I could, and I had a whole bunch of tunes down half-baked and kind of never really felt like I was able to play them. But I heard John Scofield in his tape Improvisation say that it's better to learn one tune a year and get it completely into your playing than it is to learn 20 half tunes a year. And so I kind of changed the way that I looked at things and started taking things slower, kind of just digging into things and getting it to where I could understand it. Pretty much in a way, learning from other people, but kind of ignoring the way they go about it and trying to develop a procedure of how I get a tune into it, which, you can ignore the way I'm doing it, and I'm just sharing for the heck of it. But find your own way of how a tune becomes part of your playing. So privave, spent, a week kind of getting the melody, trying to figure out where I was going to play it, and playing through the chords. Again, slowly I'm playing it in a kind of a mixed style. So I'm kind of playing single string. And then here, the very last lick, I still haven't decided whether I'm going to play it this way or so. And so I get trying to get the melody under my fingers. Secondly, or actually maybe just as importantly, trying to get the chords under my fingers, and not just like one chord for each thing, but trying to figure out how to play it and comp in different parts of the fingerboard. As a for instance, here would be my first choice. So that would be one way to do it, and again, I'll show you how I played those. The first chord, you can either play like an F6 with a 9, or just an F major 7, like that, or like this. But I'm choosing like an F6 or an F major 7 to a G minor, C9, F major 7, G minor 7, C minor 7. Now, one chart will say this is an F alt, others will say it's an F 7 sharp 5. They're both alt or dominant chords, so you can use either one, doesn't really matter. So, it's really your choice. And again, if you want to know what an altered chord is and how that relates to melodic minor, I've got a bunch of videos on that I've done in the past. So again, 1, 2, 5, 1, 2, then a 2-5 with an altered 5, in B flat, but instead of going, we're going to actually turn that B flat chord into in a dominant chord flat 9. To go someplace else, which is the beauty of bebop. It's always traveling. And then a 2/5 in what? B flat, E flat. Now you would think you would be going to, but you're not. You're going to go back to F. 2, 3, 6, dominant 7 flat 9, 2, 5, dominant 7 flat 9. Now that turnaround here, let me just do it again. I'll get to the turnaround point and we'll talk about turnarounds for a second, because altered chords, dominant chord sharp 5, a fully altered dominant chord with a sharp 5, dominant chord with flat 9, those all have very different sounds to them, but they're very, very related. And I'm just going to kind of show a couple of ideas as to what you can do with those things. So again, the tune, 1, 2, 3, 4. Top. So at the end, when we hit the F major 7 and we go G minor, A minor to the D7 flat 9, G minor, which is a little 2/5 there. Then the G minor to C7 flat 9, it's another 2/5 to the 1. And then there's an actual turnaround. It's F, D7 flat 9, which is the 6th dominant chord, to G minor, C9 in this case, or C7 flat 9, or an altered chord. So let's talk about that A minor. You guys have heard that set of changes a million times before, and you'll see it all over bebop. Well, there are some concepts here, and the thing I liked about this tune, the reason I decided to learn it, is because in the original real book chart, there are examples of almost every altered dominant sound that you can do. In this case, A minor to D7 flat 9, G minor, and I'm going to play a C alt back to the 1. And let's just break that down for a second. I'm going to talk about diminished stacks and how they relate to a dominant chord. In a minor 7 flat 9, dominant 7 flat 9, it's basically a diminished stack. If you ignore the tonic of the chord, in this case is a D7 flat 9, go up a half step and start building minor thirds on that. That's the sound of this chord. So if you a D7 flat 9 is actually, you can call that E flat diminished, G flat diminished, A diminished, or C diminished. All of those stacks, if you stack minor thirds on top of each one of those notes, you end up with the same sound. So A minor, that's the sound of a dominant 7 flat 9 chord. Now that's one type of dominant chord that is used a ton in bebop. Side note, that dominant sound, so many bebop licks and I don't know if most people call them motifs, but basically recognizable licks come out of that diminished dominant sound. That it's not called a diminished dominant, but diminished sound as it relates to a dominant chord. So you've got, in this case, A minor. Listen to what happens. You recognize that? Now that's just this diminished. That's that diminished scale. And again, it's any of those diminished scales I mentioned. E flat, G flat, A, C. So listen to this again, A minor, and then listen to the same thing again. I'm going to start up on another inversion up of the diminished chord. I'm going to play a different note set, same type of lick, and you'll recognize this one. Sorry. Or so listen to that. I'll just play a couple of lines over that. You hear how recognizable those are? Well, that comes out of that diminished scale applied to a dominant chord sound. So much bebop comes out of that. Now, the other one that I use more than that, because those are cliched licks, which are very cool, but they're very cliched and very used, have been for 50 or 60 years. And so I tend to think of the dominant chord as altered almost all the time. Not all the time, but almost all the time. So in this case, I'm going to play the same set of that, same changes in that song. Now this altered chord is really the tritone sub stack of the 5 chord. So A minor, D7, but actually I'm playing an A flat 9, G minor, C7, G flat 9 to the F major 7. So now listen to the sound that that creates. I'm not going to play licky stuff, I'm just going to play stuff, okay? So you've got, you're starting on your A minor, which again in the key of F, that A minor is not Dorian, that A minor is Phrygian. So you play notes within that Phrygian note set to keep it consonant with the key that you're playing in. Then when you go to the alt chord, you get your tensions. So good. Here's your G minor Dorian. So you got okay, you can hear that resolution. Okay, so anyway, those are just some ideas. The other dominant chord, actually I do want to hit this before I quit, and I'm at 13 minutes, so I'll try to be out by 15. So at one point I was saying before where in this part of the tune, that's an F7 sharp 5 on the real book chart. Well, dominant chord with a sharp 5 is really just a whole tone scale. So in a whole tone scale is very symmetrical. So if you find that, all those notes work over that change. So let's listen to that for just a second. I'll play a regular whole tone scale when I hit that F7 sharp 5. So you can hear how that goes. That tension goes to a B flat 7 flat 9. Remember, that's B flat 7 flat 9 has that diminished sound. To a B minor 7. To an E flat 7. And then So anyway, I'm at 15:25. I may continue this, I may not. If I think that I've forgotten something, I'll post another video. But that's just some ideas on how you start to develop an ability to play over the tune. I just gave simple melody, chords, and then a couple of ideas. Maybe in my next one I'll show my next level of evolution where I'm actually able to play lines through the changes. And the beauty of 2/5s and bebop is navigating those changes and creating tensions and releases and beautiful lines, which the great guys, of course, Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, and of course, you know, the Miles Davis, Coltrane era. Those guys just did wondrous things in working through those beautiful tensions, all the way up to and including the modern guy who really pushed Coltrane into the 80s and 90s, which would be Michael Brecker. Of the Brecker brothers, okay, who has left us, but his musical legacy lives on. Anyway, I hope that's helpful, or I hope it's interesting.